All right. So, you know how you catch yourself checking your phone? Like, all the time.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not even for anything important, really. It's like this reflex almost, just to glance at the screen.
It's true. It's become such an ingrained habit for so many of us. We're, like, tethered to these things.
And speaking of tethered, that's what we're diving into today, the whole Apple Vision
Ah,
Pro thing.
yeah, Apple's making some big moves in that whole spatial computing world.
They are. So, we've got this article here all about the Vision Pro. Have you had a chance to check it out?
I have, yeah. It's pretty wild stuff they're talking about. This whole idea of spatial computing, it's like it takes what we know about computers and just flips it on its head.
Yeah, it does. Because when I first heard about this whole augmented reality headset thing, I'll be honest, I was skeptical.
I hear that. You think back to those clunky VR headsets.
Exactly. You know, the kind where you're stumbling around, bumping into furniture. Fun for a few minutes, maybe, but not exactly practical for everyday life.
No, not at all. But the thing is, this Vision Pro, it's not just about strapping a screen to your face and calling it a day. It's trying to actually bridge that gap between the digital and the real world.
So it's not just about like escaping into a virtual world. It's more about like bringing digital elements into our world.
Exactly. Imagine, like, you're sitting at your desk,
Yeah.
but instead of just having your laptop in front of you, you've got these virtual screens all around you.
Yeah.
Or you can pull up 3D models and interact with them as if they were actually there in the room.
And that's what they're talking about in this article. They were saying how realistic the graphics are, how you'd almost believe these digital objects are actually there with you. And the controls, I mean, it's all hands-free.
It's amazing how far things have come, from those clunky VR gloves to this, where you can just use your hands to interact with everything.
It's like something out of a movie. But, and maybe this is just me, but part of me wonders, are we ready for this? Like, are we ready for a world where we're constantly surrounded by these digital interfaces?
It's a valid question,
Mm-hmm.
and it's something that we definitely need to be thinking about. If our digital and physical worlds are always blending together, when do we ever get a break? When do we ever just disconnect?
That's a really good point. It's almost like we're standing on the edge of something really exciting, but also a little bit, a little bit unknown, a little bit maybe even scary.
Yeah, it's exciting and a bit daunting at the same time.
Yeah.
I mean, on the one hand, you've got this incredible technology that has the potential to change how we work, how we play, how we connect with each other.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, you have to wonder at what cost.
Right. Are we becoming so reliant on these technologies, so immersed in these digital worlds, that we lose touch with what it means to just be present in the real world?
Yeah, and that's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah.
What happens to our relationships, our attention spans, our very sense of selves in a world that's increasingly dominated by screens?
It's something to think about. I mean, let's be real. The price tag on this thing is a big deal, right?
Oh yeah, $3,499. That's not exactly pocket change.
That's a whole lot of money you could be spending on other things, maybe even a nice vacation or something.
You could buy a top-of-the-line laptop and still have plenty left over. And the funny thing is, when the iPad first came out, everyone was going crazy for it, flying off the shelf.
I remember that, yeah.
But this Vision Pro, it seems like people are a little more hesitant, a little more wait and see about it.
Which is understandable, I think. I mean, it's a big investment, but it also makes you think about, like, where's all this being? Everything's getting smaller, more compact, more powerful. Look at those Ray-Ban Meta smart glasses. They look just like regular sunglasses.
It's true, the tech is getting crazy small these days. But then you run into that age-old problem trying to fit all that amazing capability into something tiny comes with compromises.
Right, so you end up with something like those Even Realities G1 glasses, which look sleek but can barely do more than show you notifications.
Exactly. It's a real balancing act for these companies, trying to find that sweet spot between form and function. Do you go for something super sleek and stylish, even if it means sacrificing some features? Or do you go all out on the tech side, even if it means a bulkier design?
It's a tough one. So I guess the question is it even possible to have it all? Can you have a device as powerful and immersive as the Vision Pro, but as discreet and comfortable as a pair of everyday glasses?
Well, there are definitely some companies that are trying to crack that code.
Yeah.
Meta, for example, with their Orion prototype, it's still in the works. But from what I hear, they're aiming for something incredibly lightweight, almost like you're not wearing anything at all.
Wow.
And the idea is that it'll have the same kind of augmented reality capabilities as the Vision Pro, but without the bulk.
So it's like we're in this weird in-between phase, right?
Kind of.
Where you have the Vision Pro, which is amazing in terms of what it can do, but it's still kind of clunky, kind of weird to wear out in public.
Yeah, you're not going to be wearing that to the grocery store anytime soon.
And then you have these other devices that are trying to be more discreet, more socially acceptable, but they can't quite match the Vision Pro in terms of power and functionality.
And that's a really interesting point you bring up, the social acceptability factor. Because even if they can nail the tech, there's still the question of how comfortable people are going to be with all this,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, I still remember when those Bluetooth headsets were all the rage, everyone walking around with those things glued to their ears. It looked so strange.
It took a while for people to warm up to the idea, for the technology to become more integrated, more, well, normal. Maybe it's the same with AR and VR.
Maybe, but even then, the Vision Pro is kind of in a category of its own. I was reading that it doesn't even have a limit usage option in its screen time settings, which is kind of telling, don't you think?
It is interesting, isn't it? Almost like they're acknowledging that this isn't just about limiting our screen time. It's about fundamentally changing how we think about and interact with screens altogether.
So, are we saying goodbye to the days of trying to pry ourselves away from our screens and hello to a future where they're just like a constant presence in our lives?
It's possible. Maybe instead of trying to resist this integration of the digital and physical worlds, we need to find ways to embrace it to make it work for us rather than the other way around.
So, instead of being afraid of becoming slaves to the screen, we should be trying to figure out how to use these technologies to enhance our lives, to make us more productive, more connected, more creative.
Exactly. But that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Can we actually achieve that balance? Or are we kidding ourselves?
It's a question that we're all going to have to grapple with sooner or later because the future is coming, whether we're ready for it or not. I mean, are we headed for some kind of dystopian future where, like, we're just constantly bombarded with information? Or is there a way to find some kind of balance, you know?
I think that's the big question, isn't it? It's not just about the technology, but about how we choose to use it.
So what can we even do? Are we just kind of along for the ride at this point?
I don't think so. I think it starts with awareness. Like, if we can at least recognize the potential downsides, we can start to set some boundaries for ourselves.
So like digital detox retreats, that kind of thing?
Well, it doesn't have to be that extreme, but
Yeah.
even just having like certain times a day or certain areas in your home where you make a conscious effort to disconnect.
Like no phone zones.
Exactly. Or
Yeah.
maybe it's as simple as like putting your phone away during meals.
Mhm.
Just little things to remind yourself that you don't have to be tethered to these devices all the time.
So it's not about rejecting technology altogether. It's about being more intentional about how we use it.
Exactly. And I think that's where the real potential lies. If we can harness the power of this technology without letting it control us, well, that's when it can become truly, truly beneficial.
It's like we're at a crossroads here. Like, do we keep going down this road of constant connectivity, always plugged in, always distracted? Or do we try to forge a different path? One where technology actually complements our lives instead of, like, taking over.
It's a choice we all have to make, really,
Yeah.
individually and as a society. And honestly, I think the decisions we make now are going to have a big impact on the kind of world we end up living in.
It's a lot to think about. But hey, that's what these deep dives are all about, right? Getting us to think critically about the future of technology and our place in it all.
Absolutely.
So what do you think? Are you ready for a world of spatial computing? Or are you trying to pump the brakes on the whole screen thing? Let us know. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and as always, keep diving deep.